Hey, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me in the main message video for March the 7th as we continue in our series in the book of Revelation, which I think has heaps to tell all of us anytime, but is really suited to this era of COVID and all the challenges and unpleasantnesses that we have faced, are facing, and the particular time of re-emergence from restrictions that we are mostly looking forward to. To get through life well, we use other people's points of view to help us. Most of us, whilst fairly determined to hang on to our existing opinions and perspectives, nonetheless realise that you need somebody else's opinion, at least sometimes. It might be, does my bum look big in this? Or it might be, I'm about to sell up and change absolutely everything in my life. Just thought I'd run it by you for your thoughts first. In other words, we just need somebody who can look from another angle and tell us how it looks to them. And of course, the person who looks from the perfect angle and who sees things for what they really are is God. Okay, I've never seen anything for what it really is, and neither have you. So you and I can bat to and forth from our different perspectives, and that will be really helpful. The trouble is that both of us don't see things as they really are. We see things as we are. So we have perspectives, and getting a different point of view really helps. But getting the big different point of view from heaven is really what we most need. And we really do need it. A thought which has struck me from a long time ago and keeps coming back to mind, and which I'm uncomfortable with, is that most of the evil done on planet Earth is done by good people. People I consider to be good. And that in fact, quite a big chunk of the evil done on planet Earth is not only done by good people, but it's done by good people convinced that they are doing absolutely the right thing, probably even serving God. So we see this highlighted in a number of places in the New Testament, but for me most powerfully in the opponents of Jesus. Take the Pharisees. They were genuinely horrified and appalled by Jesus' irreligious behaviour as they saw it. For them, there was not a chance that this man could teach anybody anything about God, because he was so plainly not holy in so many ways. And they were so wrapped up in their own certainty of what is good, true, right, that they could not see anything else. Jesus brought to them a different point of view from heaven, and it jarred with them, very difficult. And some, however, responded very positively to it, but as a group they didn't. Take another famous group of opponents, the faith teachers, or teachers of the law they're called, and they are the people who instruct everybody else on how to live faithfully under God. Well, they thought Jesus interpreted the scriptures completely wrongly, and they were appalled at his behaviour. And they were so sure that they knew how to interpret the Bible that clearly Jesus was doing it wrongly. And they just disliked everything about it. And Jesus continued to bring to them the challenge, another point of view that risked them seeing that they hadn't seen yet, risked them understanding that they did not yet understand, risked them changing, and we don't like that. So we see it in the opponents of Jesus. We see it right down to the events of Good Friday, to which we are moving through Lent at the moment. The priests who condemned Jesus and handed him over to Pilate. They, like the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, were a self-interested group. They had privilege, they had position, they had finance, they had a place, and they had power because of who they were and the group they belonged to. Group identity can matter to us just as much as our own identity, because they are part and parcel of each other. And we can play that game with our local church too. If we are faithful members of our local church, not just some building we go to for a service once in a while, this is a group of people who are walking the way of Jesus with us. And our identity matters. As a group, we don't like to be corrected or to be too challenged from another perspective. The book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, is a pastoral letter by John the elder to the churches of the province, the Roman province of Asia, not what we would call Asia. And he's wanting to coach them. In actual fact, it's Jesus who wants them coached, but we'll come to that. So John, wanting to write to the churches of the whole of the province of Asia, names 7 of them because John is writing in a particular style which always uses the number 7 to represent the completeness of something. It uses number 12 in much the same way. So when you see the number 7, it's to mark the completeness. So when he writes to the 7 churches, it's not that there were just 7, there were more. But that these are city centre churches, if you like, and they become the representative of the whole of the Church of Asia, for whom John is very concerned and whom he wants to say, Jesus is concerned about you too. Their situation, which you will quickly get, just skim through Revelation 2 and 3, 2 or 3 times. Just read it through and then read it through again and then read it through. It doesn't take you very long. And you'll notice several things creeping up. That the letter, each section to each church is actually subdivided into 7-fold sections as well. You'll notice all kinds of things. And you'll notice that they're addressed as having external problems, persecution and pressure from their society, persecution from the government maybe sometimes. All kinds of things are against them as the churches, on the outside of the church. And they are suffering internal pressures as different personalities compete with one another for prominence in the little local church, and as different teachings, distortions that will knock people off the truth of the gospel, as they compete with the simple gospel truth as well. And so on the inside of the churches, there are these tensions from those who want to be powerful, from teachings that are looking for prominence, and on the outside. So by and large, looking at it, you wonder how these little churches manage to survive at all. You'll notice when you read through that every paragraph about to address one of the 7 churches talks to the angel of the church of wherever it is, Sardis, Ephesus, Laodicea, wherever. And you'll notice, if you read back again a couple of times and just read a little wider through a bit of chapter 1, bit of chapter 4, 5, whatever, you'll quickly see that to say to the angel of the church of Sardis is exactly the same as saying to the church of Sardis. What's John doing here? He's drawing a deliberate parallel between the little local situation, what it's like to be in Sardis or Ephesus or Laodicea or Philadelphia as a Christian community, because he's writing to the whole church as a group. What it's like to be them. Their local on-the-ground reality is about to be described. But he's saying your local on-the-ground reality in your little local village church or your little local city church or wherever it is actually part of the situation of the church in the heavenlies. And you are present and represented in heaven, and your actions as a little local church is part of the action of heaven. So to write to the angel of the church is the same as to write to the church, because you are already a participant in God's eternal purposes and the life of heaven itself. Church in the little locality is actually part of the eternal big picture. And you'll quickly see also that as soon as a church has been named, the message of Jesus starts, I know. I know where you live, so I know your local situation. I know exactly what it's like to live in Cannington. I know exactly what it's like to live where you do in Netherstowey or Bridgewater or wherever it may be. I know exactly your situation and what it's like to be a church in your setting. And I know that. I know who you are. I know what you're capable of. And I know how hard you try. And I want to commend you for your faithfulness and your endurance, your perseverance, your determination to work hard so that your local church shines with the light of the gospel of truth and ministers the presence of God into your locality. I know how hard it is, and I know that in the midst of all that hardship, you're giving it a really good shot. Well done. But I also know that you are capable of better. I also know how easily distracted you are, how your faith falls asleep, how absorbed you become in other things. I also know how you bicker with one another. I also know all kinds of things. And I'm telling you as team coach, from the perspective I have as Christ, you are capable of so much more. And you could and should do better. Now, when somebody starts talking to me like that, starts thinking they can give me orders, the first thing I want to know is who it is exactly who thinks they can give me orders. Who says so is a very common thought in my mind. If you bring me a message, oh, you're supposed to do it this way, I go, yeah, and who says so? Because until I know who says so, I'm not giving them any authority to determine how I'm going to behave or what I'm going to think about something. I want to know who says so. So I need to know that who says so in this case is Christ. Once we've got that straight, and just who is this Christ who keeps talking to me? Well, he's the Son of God. You just read it for yourself. Chapters 2 and 3, Book of Revelation. Just quickly skim through 2 or 3 times. You'll see it, and collect the little bits about who Jesus is that goes early in each of the paragraphs. He's the one who's the first and the last. He's the one with the word of God. He's the Son of God. He's the ruler of all creation, etc. That's who we're talking about when we're talking about Christ. That's who says, I know your church. I know all of you in it, and I know your church, and you are awesomely brilliant. Well done, because your situation is challenging. You've got this COVID thing going on. You can't meet in the place to worship that you usually meet in. You're not quite sure how you're going to manage as lockdown ends. People who used to honour the church now don't even know where to find you. You're being forgotten. It's this, it's that, and you're doing so well. Well done for what you're doing well, but you can do so much better, and I know you can, and I'm calling you to. So I know who's calling me to. Now, what's he calling me to do? And we've kind of answered it, to do better. And you can go through Revelations 2 and 3, just quickly read it through and through, and you'll see the things that they're called to do. And they're much the same that we are called to do as well. So go to it. I mean, we know that we face all kinds of difficulty, but we, just like the churches of Asia in John's day, are called to be faithful, to do our best. We're called to be the light of Christ in the world. We're called to persevere in difficulty. We're called to be true. All kinds of things which are never mentioned that churches may think to be important. But if you look, you'll see what Jesus regards as important. That faithfulness, that perseverance, that adherence to the gospel, that determination to keep going, all kinds of things. And notice too, that the one who knows our scene and knows us and knows the good that we do, but also the good that we're capable of, and now calls us to that, always ends with a promise, always with a reminder to us of saying, I'm asking a bit more of you, which you're perfectly capable and which will be good for you if you do it. I wouldn't say this if I didn't love you. You're capable of it. I want you to do it. Don't forget, I promise you eternity. So get on out there, emerge from COVID, be bold, be strong, be faithful, and be a really good little local church as part of the awesome extent of God's heaven. God bless you, and do join me on the supplement if you'd like to just explore a little bit more of the background to some of what I shared. But I hope you have a good and safe week.